The sun hung low over the vast, golden desert, casting long shadows across the rippling dunes. Heat shimmered in the distance, blurring the horizon into a mirage of endless sand and silence. In this unforgiving landscape, survival was not just a skill, it was a daily battle. A lone woman, draped in a flowing scarf to shield herself from the harsh sun, rode steadily atop her camel. The animal moved with calm, practiced steps, its hooves pressing softly into the sand as if it understood the delicate balance of life in such a place. She had been traveling for hours, perhaps days, it was hard to tell in a land where time seemed to dissolve into the rhythm of wind and footsteps. Her journey was not one of leisure but of necessity. Supplies were low, and the nearest settlement lay far beyond the dunes. Yet, despite the fatigue that tugged at her body, her eyes remained alert, scanning the surroundings with quiet determination. The desert, though beautiful, concealed dangers that could strike without warning. And on this day, danger had already set its eyes on her. Far behind a ridge of sand, two leopards moved like shadows. Their sleek bodies hugged the terrain, muscles rippling beneath spotted coats as they advanced with calculated precision. These were not creatures of hesitation, they were hunters, driven by hunger and instinct. Their golden eyes locked onto the distant figure of the woman and her camel, recognizing an opportunity in the barren landscape. The wind shifted slightly, carrying a faint scent. The camel's ears twitched. It slowed its pace, its body tensing subtly. The woman felt the change immediately. She leaned forward, placing a reassuring hand on the animal's neck, but her own heartbeat began to quicken. Years of experience had taught her to trust the instincts of her companion. Then she saw them, two figures emerging from the wavering heat behind them, graceful yet terrifying. Leopards. Fast, silent, deadly. For a split second, fear gripped her chest. The odds were not in her favor. In open terrain like this, there was nowhere to hide, nowhere to climb, no immediate refuge. But panic would only seal her fate. She took a deep breath, forcing her mind into focus. The camel let out a low, uneasy sound. It knew what was coming. "Run," she whispered, her voice steady despite the storm of adrenaline within her. As if understanding the urgency, the camel surged forward, its pace shifting from a steady walk to a powerful, bounding stride. Sand sprayed behind them as they raced across the dunes. The woman held tightly, her body moving in rhythm with the animal, her eyes darting ahead, searching for any advantage, any chance of escape. Behind them, the leopards gave chase. They were astonishingly fast, their bodies cutting through the desert like arrows. The distance between predator and prey began to shrink. Each second felt like an eternity as the pounding of hooves and the silent, relentless pursuit merged into a single, terrifying moment. The woman's mind raced. She knew that speed alone might not be enough. Leopards were sprinters, capable of incredible bursts of acceleration. If they closed the gap, the outcome would be devastating. Ahead, the terrain shifted slightly. The dunes grew steeper, the sand looser. It was a risky path, but it might be her only chance. She guided the camel toward the uneven ground. The climb was difficult. The camel's legs strained as it pushed upward, its hooves sinking deeper into the soft sand. For a moment, it seemed like they might lose momentum. The woman urged it on, her voice filled with both command and encouragement. Behind them, the leopards hesitated briefly at the base of the incline. Their advantage of speed faltered against the unstable terrain. Still, hunger drove them forward. The camel reached the crest of the dune, its body trembling with effort. Without slowing, it descended the other side, using gravity to its advantage. The woman held on tightly as they slid and bounded down the slope, sand cascading around them like a wave. The gap widened, just slightly. It was enough to give her a moment to think. She spotted a cluster of rocky outcrops in the distance. Unlike the open dunes, rocks could provide some level of protection, an obstacle that might disrupt the leopard's pursuit. It was a gamble, but one worth taking. She steered the camel toward the rocks. The chase continued, relentless and unforgiving. The leopards adapted quickly, regaining ground with each powerful stride. Their determination was unwavering. They were closing in again. The woman's hands tightened. She could feel the camel's exhaustion, its breaths growing heavier, its pace beginning to falter. Time was running out. As they approached the rocky area, she made a bold decision. Instead of skirting around the rocks, she guided the camel directly through them. The terrain became rough and uneven, forcing the animal to slow slightly, but it also created a chaotic path that was difficult to navigate at high speed. The leopards followed, but their movements became less fluid. They had to adjust their strides, leap over obstacles, and weave between jagged stones. The advantage began to shift. The woman seized the opportunity. She urged the camel onward, pushing it just a little further, just a little faster. The rocks provided brief moments of cover, breaking the line of sight and forcing the predators to rely on instinct rather than direct vision. Seconds stretched into what felt like minutes. Then, gradually, something changed. The sound of pursuit began to fade. The woman risked a glance back. The leopards had slowed, their bodies no longer surging forward with the same intensity. The difficult terrain, combined with the extended chase, had taken its toll. Predators, too, had limits. Finally, they stopped. Standing atop a rocky ledge, the leopards watched as their prey disappeared into the distance. Their golden eyes followed the retreating figures, but they did not give chase again. The cost had become too great. The woman didn't stop immediately. She allowed the camel to continue until the rocks gave way to safer ground and the threat was no longer visible. Only then did she gently slow the animal, letting it come to a halt. Silence returned. The desert, once again, appeared calm, almost as if nothing had happened. She slid down from the camel, her legs unsteady but her spirit unbroken. She rested her forehead against the animal's neck, gratitude filling her heart. It wasn't just strength or speed that had saved them, it was trust, instinct, and the will to survive. In the vast wilderness, survival often comes down to a single moment, a single decision, a single act of courage. On that day, in the heart of the desert, a woman and her camel had faced the raw power of nature, and lived to continue their journey. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and crimson, they moved forward once more, carrying with them a story of resilience that the desert winds would never tell, but would always remember. As the camel's hooves thundered against the uneven ground and the woman's grip tightened with every jolt, the chase entered a far more dangerous phase. The brief advantage they had gained over the leopards was fragile, almost an illusion. In the wild, especially in a place as harsh and unpredictable as the desert, nothing came easy, and nothing lasted long. The rocky terrain had slowed the predators, but it had also taken a toll on the camel. Its powerful legs, built for endurance across open sand, were now navigating sharp edges and unstable footing. Each step required precision. One wrong move could mean a fall, and a fall would mean the end. The woman could feel the strain beneath her. The camel's breathing had grown heavier, more labored, and its once fluid movement was now cautious and tense. She knew she couldn't push it too far. Yet stopping was not an option. She turned her head slightly, listening. At first, there was only the sound of wind brushing against the rocks. Then, faint but unmistakable, the shifting of stones, the soft scrape of paws against gravel. The leopards had not given up. They were still coming. A surge of urgency rushed through her veins. She scanned the terrain ahead, her eyes darting quickly, calculating every possibility. The rocky area was dense but not endless. Beyond it, she could already see the desert opening up again into wide, exposed dunes. If the leopards regained full speed there, the outcome could be very different. She needed something more than distance. She needed an advantage. As they moved deeper into the rocky stretch, she noticed a narrow passage between two large formations. It wasn't a clear path. It twisted slightly and was cluttered with smaller stones, but it offered something crucial: confinement. If the space was tight enough, it could slow or even confuse the predators. Without hesitation, she guided the camel toward it. The entrance was rough. The camel hesitated for a split second, sensing the difficulty, but the woman urged it forward with determination. It stepped in, carefully placing each hoof, its large body brushing close to the stone walls on either side. Inside the passage, the temperature dropped slightly. The air